Poland has elected a new president. Conservative nationalist Karol Nawrocki narrowly won the election and is set to take office August 6th. The win comes shortly after President Trump threw support behind Nawrocki and hosted him at the White House last month, with the two posing for photos and shaking hands in the Oval Office. Joining me now is the Hill's Director of Audience Development, Sarokshi Rai, with more. Sarokshi, thanks so much for joining us. Karol Nawrocki received support from President Trump and Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban. What do we know about Poland's next president, and does this add momentum to Europe's far-right movement?
I mean, this is a huge setback, Judy, for Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk. This outcome really leaves Poland bitterly divided, with the two power centers, the government and the presidency, basically pulling in completely opposite directions. This Polish runoff election came just 2 weeks after voters in Romania rejected a nationalist candidate in the presidential election. Now, that result was really raising the hopes of Polish liberals that maybe Europe's right-wing populist wave was receding. But Nawrocki's win has really left those hopes shattered and will also disappoint mainstream forces in the European Union, which are aligned with Donald Tusk, who is the Prime Minister of Poland, and a former senior official in Brussels with strongly pro-European views. Judy.
As you know, Sarokshi, Nawrocki won this race by the slimmest of margins, winning 50.89% of the vote. While he doesn't have much, if any, political experience, was this win a surprise?
This was a little bit of a surprise, but not really, given that Nawrocki received strong backing during the campaign from very like-minded foreigners, including the support of President Donald Trump. Now, speaking just days before the election at a gathering of the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC as we know it, near the Polish city, not far from the capital, Trump's Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem really urged Polish voters to choose Nawrocki over his competitor, and really deriding his competitor, who is Warsaw's mayor, as a socialist and a train wreck of a leader. Now, the president has also endorsed Nawrocki, receiving him last month in the Oval Office, as you mentioned, and they both posed for a photograph with this thumbs up. His main competitor, Trzaskowski, won the first round of Poland's election, and really his defeat in the runoff indicated that the votes that he, lost or won really went to the far-right candidates in the first round, had swung behind Nawrocki. So really, the first election runoff, not going in Nawrocki's favor, but once those, right-wing candidates kind of were out of the race, those right-wing votes swung in Nawrocki's favor, handing him that slimmest of margin wins. Judy.
What implications does this have for the country's relationship with Ukraine and the European Union?
Now, we know that Nawrocki has voiced support for Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression. Now, he doesn't back Ukrainian membership to NATO, and he has questioned the long-term costs of aid, particularly support for refugees. Now, his rhetoric has at times echoed that of President Trump. He has accused Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of what he said was insufficient gratitude for Poland's assistance. Poland has really become this strong deterrence to Russia within the NATO bloc as well. And there's also growing public fatigue over helping Ukrainian refugees. Nawrocki's approach really could shift Poland's posture from being a strong ally to a conditional partner if this war drags on much longer. Now, this election resulted also a setback for the EU, which had welcomed the return of the Prime Minister Donald Tusk in 2023 as really a signal of renewed pro-European engagement. Now, it's important to remember, the Polish president does not control day-to-day diplomacy. He's a very symbolic figurehead, but Nawrocki's veto powers could essentially frustrate the European Union's efforts to bring Poland back into alignment with the EU, particularly on multiple issues like the rule of law issues and migration, which is, a huge sticking point for him.
Big news out of Poland and potential global impact. Sarokshi Rai, thank you so much for joining us.